Computer chip manufacturers might actually be selling you a defective chip. Technically. Let me explain. This is actually a pretty common industry practice called binning. A good example of this is Apple's M series of chips, where you might see the same M series processor but with different core counts available on the same product. And before anybody says, oh, well, this is just because Apple wants to sell you a broken chip at a high price, no, actually, this is a common practice with companies like Intel and AMD as well. Pretty much any silicon-based computer hardware is made using this wafer process, and it's really cool, but it's not always perfect. Whenever these wafers are made, usually containing GPU or CPU cores or even NAND storage, there's what's called a yield, which is how much of that wafer is actually going to be usable. Because while you may get a large number of chips that are usable, there may also be some on the wafer that are defective. Obviously, the ones around the edges are just going to be wasted silicon, but just because the chip has a defect doesn't mean that it's completely unusable. For example, let's say that you have a wafer of i9s and a few of those dies come off with only enough cores to be stable as an i5. They're still completely useful as an i5, so you don't have to waste those chips, it's just that they don't have the core count to be an i9. Now, interestingly enough, on some older computers, you used to be able to reactivate those deactivated CPU cores, but because those defects could often result in a dead CPU or worse, they kind of took that feature away. But even though these dies do technically have defective cores on them, that doesn't mean that the activated cores are any less stable than the ones that are on non-binned versions. For example, the iMac with the M4 chip has an 8-core CPU, the iPad Pro has the same processor with 9 cores, and the Mac Mini has 10 cores. All of the activated cores are going to perform exactly the same, it's just that 1 or 2 cores were deactivated due to the binning process. So while you could technically call a binned CPU a broken CPU, this is a pretty common industry practice, and it's why we have things like the Intel Core i9, i7, and i5, and the Ryzen 9, Ryzen 7, and Ryzen 5 chips. To me, this is kind of cool because it's like the computer chip industry's way of taking lemons and making lemonade, because yeah, you may have not ended up with a full wafer of i9s, but you still have some i5s and i7s you can sell instead.